Yes, I guess you better introduce me to this here,
Yeah,
and we'll go from there.
yeah. So you can let me know who you are.
Yeah,
What's your full name?
yes,
Yeah.
okay. My, well, he would be my grandson, Curtis Cameron. He's going to interview me a bit on where my dad came from, my mother, myself, the whole family, where we were, and how we all ended up where we are. And the reason for this interview is we have small children that are growing, and they're growing fast. But these small children that I'm talking about, they don't know us. They don't know their relatives. And we're so scattered. Scattered. We're scattered all the way from Larange, I guess, to Saskatoon. And we have relatives. Some of the Camerons who are our relatives. They they live in Wichita. Some of our relatives live in Sandy Lake, and all over. I was going to say the province, but we're not that widely scattered. But my father was Angus Mirasty. Senator Angus Mirasty was my father. And my mother, her maiden name was Mary Hayaso. That is her maiden name. And then I had an aunt. She's gone. Mary Jane Peters. But she had gotten married in with a guy, with her uncle Pat Peters. That they went to school together, the Duck Lake School. Now, probably some of these things I'm about to say, I'm going to miss one way or another. I'm going to miss something that I should have talked about or said something about. Pat, Uncle Pat Peters, and my Aunt Mary Jane that married Pat, they got married. And my father, who was Angus Mirasty, he came from the ranch. My dad Angus was working for a fella in a white guy, a white man in the ranch. He would go out to the trap lines, take stuff out for the trappers, and if they were running short of anything, he'd try and get the stuff to them so they don't have to come home. They would stay and do their work and their trapping. And this Chris Olson was the name of this fella my dad was working for. Chris Olson was a person that had bought furs. He was in the fur trade. And my dad used to travel with him to various trap lines up north in the Range area. And so my dad was talking to Chris Olson. Chris Olson was a white person, but he, like I said before, he was involved in trapping. He would take, and he would also get my dad to take and go and trade furs for stuff that they need in the trap line, like, for instance, tobacco, tea, the everyday things that they need in the trap lines. My dad, and sometimes Chris Olson himself, they would take this stuff to these trap lines. And, but Chris Olson was a person that knew about farming. He knew what farming was. And this one time, he talked to my dad about what was happening or going to happen in time to come. Then he told my dad, he said, "Angus, you've got a reserve just out of Prince Albert, 20 miles out of Prince Albert. You've got a reserve called the Little Red River Reserve. This land belongs to you as being a Laxaron's band member. This is your land. But it's just out of Prince Albert. I'm going to encourage you to move to your land at Little Red River. And start yourself up a farm. when you get over there, you're going to have to start breaking land. You're going to have to buy equipment to use. Of course, horses at that time were being in use. And because you're just wasting your time here in the ranch when you've got all this land and Little Red River and nobody's using it. Go and start work on that land and establish yourself a farm. So then, of course, my dad got his information from somebody that he knew and could believe and respect. He respected Mr. Olson. And so he moved. Him and another fellow that turned out to be one of our band counselors for many, many years. Danny Cook was his name. They both moved in from the ranch into Little Red. So, and as I was told, they really worked hard to break land. I remember that one whole summer, my dad had broken 11 acres of land with horses. And the Indian agent came out there and give him particular heck for not being able to break more land than 11 acres. But my dad had to know what he was doing after a while. And so he got into an argument with the Indian agent, and he grabbed the Indian agent and threw him down on the ground a few times, never to come around there again and do this. He got into a scuffle with him. And after a scuffle was done, the Indian agent never attacked him in any way at all after that, because the old man was a powerful old man. And because the Indian agent respected him more than he did before, he knocked him down a few times. But that was good the old man did that. Showed a guy not to push him around. And so that's what happened at that part. And so the old man started breaking land, and him and Danny Cook broke land, and I'm not sure how many acres they broke altogether between the two of them, but they managed to break some land. But because my dad came from the ranch, there's nothing agriculturally in La Ranch. There's nobody farms in La Ranch. So my dad didn't know very little about farming, but he was a very hard worker. And the Indian agent knew about this, about his work, how ambitious he was to get on his feet. And so that scuffle they had from before was forgotten. I guess one beaten from one of the Indian boys to that Indian agent kind of must have showed him, hey, I better watch your step around here because there's Indians here that will put you down. And that's what happened. And because my Uncle Pat and my dad, they got to be very, very close friends, just like brothers. Pat was married to my aunt, Mary Jane. Mary Jane, well, then I temporarily lost my mind in the name. Ayaso is their last name. So anyway, my uncle told Mary Jane's family of how hard this young fella worked to try and establish himself a farm. And they got together. And my mother and my dad got together and they got married. They got married. And everything turned out okay. So the old man had never went back to the ranch to go and live over there. When he left the ranch, he met up with my mother here in Sturgeon Lake, and Uncle Pat and Aunt Mary Jane got them together, and they got married. So they kept on working, trying to do something about the farm. Before I forget, I can't forget that in the Indian Affairs man here from PA and Sturgeon Lake, they took my dad and asked him, Angus, you don't know anything about farming, but we want you to learn. And so what then happened the Indian Affairs personnel, they sent my dad to them reserves up in Yorkton, Belcaris, and they send my dad over there to go and learn farming. For 2 years they were in he was in them farms in the Yorkton area. And after 2 years was up, they got him better stuff to use to do his farming. I mean, you got to have horses. You got to have harness. You got to be able to make hay for your livestock. Well, all this he got just to go to Yorkton. And he came back and he started working for himself on the farm here. So anyway, of course, they got married. Mom and Dad got married. And that was okay. They had a slight, maybe not a problem, but a slight, what they were going to, or what church they were going to use. Because my mother was a Roman Catholic from Duck Lake, and my dad was Anglican from the ranch. But they made out. They made out. So anyway, cut the story short, there's quite a bit more here to be told about what had happened. My dad, my both parents, they both went to Duck Lake to go and meet with his new family. My dad, to go and meet his new family. And this is where the Camerons come in. My Aunt Mary Jane and Pat Peters, my Uncle Pat Peters, they all got together and Mom and Dad got married. And they had to go and visit in Duck Lake. My dad had to go and meet his new family. Everything went over well. And so I'm thinking back to what I had been told. My uncle J.B. Cameron and my Uncle Pat Peters, they used to talk to us, the boys, about our parents. And how hard it was to try and accumulate something for themselves to farm with, and trying to build up a farm. But it must have worked out okay, because it got to be a very nice, decent-sized farm after a while. So I remember the one time that I remember my dad talking about getting to Beardy's to go and visit his new family. And at night, of course, it was a moonlit night, I guess. He hooked up two of his best horses and drove a team of horses to Duck Lake to go and visit his new relatives. There were the Camerons, the Gambles, and the Kingfishers, and who all was there. And of course, they had to come home. They couldn't stay in Duck Lake too long, because they had chores to do. My dad had gotten one cow, and that's where they started their cattle herd from. Then he got more as time went. But this work that was involved in my dad's beginning of the farm, he didn't take very long. There was lots of white people helped him. What had to be done to grow certain crops: barley, oats for the horses, barley for cattle. They managed. But for me, Bob and I, we both took over the farming from our dad. For my dad was sick, ended up in the hospital. And my mother, she too got sick. She ended up in a sanatorium. Mom had TB. But they were okay. But because of there was times when my dad and maybe two or three other wagons or sleighs. People would go hunting from here, from Little Red or Sturgeon Lake, would go hunting north of Christopher Lake. And they got, that's how they got their meat. But it was okay. It was never an easy time, because when you have nothing much to speak of, you just have to work a little harder, or try to work a little harder to try and accumulate something for ourselves. That I guess the harder we worked, the more things got better for us. So we broke a bunch of land. My brother Bob, Tom Peters, and we got help from other people breaking land. But none of this I feel sorry for doing, because work is work. And eventually you start to pick up from your work. My brother Bob did a lot of work with my dad. I was young, very young. But I still tried to help out the best that I could. And I'm glad to have my grandson here, Curtis. He come to pay us a visit, come to find out about his family, come to find his family that are here. And that is good. I have to say that I was very happy to get him here today. And then when he asked me, there was a few words that I'd like to say, I said that I would at least try anyway. And so, being related to people the Camerons in Duck Lake. We got Gambles in Duck Lake that are related to us from my mother. The Kingfishers are related to us. The old man Kingfisher was very important to us. But he was also there with us and for us any time that we needed help to get something going for ourselves. And I don't know if there's any much more that I could talk to you about. I really enjoyed my life right here, where my dad had selected land to to farm, good rich farmland. And it was great to move in here. Well, for all the thinking I've been doing about what I talked about, my mind played out.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, that's lots. It's a good life, hard life.
Oh, it was hard. It was hard.
But I think it builds character. It builds a character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, working with your hands.
Working with your hands and your mind.
Yep.
I mean, holy smokes, to try and establish a farm and there's no money to do it with, you need money to do these things. You got to buy horses to farm with. You know, so it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Even when I started, everything was put up for me already. Even for me, it wasn't easy to get going and keep going. Yeah.
I spent some my childhood on a farm.
Yes,
A lot of work, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun.
that's right.
You know,
That's right.
your childhood growing up, trying to ride a calf, you know, stuff like that.
I know. Yeah, I used to jump on calves too, trying to practice, trying to mimic, or trying to
Bull ride.
trying to bull ride a calf. Because sometimes the old man would take us to a rodeo.
Yeah.
Certain lakes used to have rodeos, good rodeos. Yeah, and that's where we were all riders anyway to begin with, because that was the only transportation we had was riding. That was my school bus,
Yeah.
a horse's back.
And then growing up too, hunting, gophers, rabbits. I don't think my children would ever live that life.
No, actually they can't really, because when we were told that we had to quit eating gophers, the reason why they stopped, Indian Affairs stopped us from eating gophers, they were already being fed gopher poison. So we couldn't eat no more bull. No, we couldn't eat any more gophers because we poisoned ourselves to death. But I remember my Uncle J.B. and Mary Rose, Aunt Mary Rose, they used to come over here to come and visit our parents. Yeah, I remember that happening. But you know, them old fellas, like my dad and Uncle J.B. Cameron, I could listen to them old fellas talking for hours. Just listening, trying to learn something, because I knew my uncle was an intelligent man, J.B. Cameron. I knew that he knew lots. He was an educated person. And my dad too was a person that was, you know, had good thinking up there. So, no, it was okay. It was okay. And I don't know where I probably missed out on a few things. But, you know, we'll probably have an interview sometime. Bobby Cameron wanted to have an interview with us as a family, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Because he is family,
Yeah, yeah.
Bobby's family. And you smoke?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll smoke that for you. Mushroom, thank you.
Yes, I appreciate you coming and coming to visit us and meet with us meet with us and visit with us at the same time. Yeah, because I'm just starting to get to meet the other boys.
Yeah.
Like it's not that long ago when I met Bobby Cameron. The other Bobby, I knew him because he was coming to help us on the farm here.
His dad?
Yeah, yeah, Bobby Senior.
I don't remember him, but him and my dad were real close.
Oh, you don't remember Bobby?
No.
Yeah, he died
In '84, I think. 80.
sometime then. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I remember when he passed away.
yeah.
I remember when my mom told Mushroom and Cookham, Walter and Therese, that he's gone. And I was a little kid, I don't remember that.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know the importance of what they were doing.
Yeah.
I just know that they were really sad, crying, when they found out that Bobby Senior passed away. And I remember that's one of my memories I have. Like 10 years old, I think I was.
You were 10 years old then.
And me and Bobby, we spent some time together in school, junior. We went to school together, still in Duck Lake. But yeah, that's lots. We'll talk again.
Yeah. We'll get together again and